On Larry King Now, Schitt's Creek's creator and star Dan Levy. Schitt's Creek. Never thought I'd ever say that.
I never thought you'd ever say that.
I never have said it in my life on television, but that's the title of the show, and I am a professional. And I've been up Schitt's Creek a few times. Anyway.
The second season has a really strong emotional thread running through it, and I think it explores a family that is realizing that they need each other in ways that they never knew before.
Plus, Rosie Rivera on her new memoir and life without her sister Jenni. What do people misunderstand about sexual abuse?
They think that it's easy to get over, that time heals the wounds, that it happened so long ago it doesn't really matter. But time doesn't heal it. Time can even make it worse.
How do you want your sister to be remembered?
As a giving person. She said it is better to give than to receive, and she lived that to the T, and I want people to know that.
All next on Larry King Now. Welcome to Larry King Now, and joining me today is Dan Levy, the co-creator, co-executive producer, and writer of the hit comedy series Schitt's Creek. I can't believe I said that. Dan also stars in the series alongside Catherine O'Hara, Chris Elliott, and his father, Eugene Levy. Schitt's Creek is in its second season. It airs Tuesday nights on CBC, Canadian Broadcasting Network, and here in the United States on the Pop Network. Okay, who came up with this title?
The title actually came from a dinner that my dad had with Martin Mull. And I'm assuming some wine was drank, and apparently it was just a premise that they started playing with, just, you know, the town of Schitt's Creek and, you know, Schitt's Barbershop.
When you promote this show,
yeah.
do they let you on the Today Show or Good Morning America?
Shockingly, yes. I think we've had to do some pretty creative things in terms of we've had to spell it out. There's had to be a title card that comes up to contextualize where it's from.
But you couldn't say it, right?
I think we could say it on Late Night. I think Jimmy Fallon did a big sort of funny thing with it on his show. In terms
What is it about?
It's about a family who had lived a very wealthy life. They lost their money in a back tax scandal with a shady business manager, and for my character's 16th birthday, my dad had bought me a town called Schitt's Creek because he thought it was funny, and at the time, why not? And when the government started taking all our assets from us, this town was the only thing they didn't want to take, so we were forced to move there and start our lives again. But ultimately, you know, it's exploring a family who came from a lot of money, where money sort of bandaged a lot of the problems, and it was in the end, what they're learning is that they had a really dismantled relationship with one another.
And are there a lot of people in town named Schitt?
Chris Elliott plays Mayor Roland Schitt, and his wife Jocelyn, and that is sort of the Schitt family, and it's the town was named after them. It comes from a long lineage of Schitts, and you know.
Now, the storyline of the show. I understand you play someone who is pansexual.
Yes.
What is that? I've never heard it, the term.
Pansexuality is an attraction or love to anyone of any sex or gender identity. So it's a very fluid...
LGBT, anyone.
Yes. In doing the show, it's actually been amazing to see the response from the pansexual community of people who are, you know, quite excited to see that represented, you know, on television.
Is that the first time ever it's been represented? I don't think it's.
I can't say I can't say for sure, but I haven't seen it before.
You were quoted as saying, "I don't think he's ever turned down a sexual opportunity if it arose, just like most millennials." That's funny. All right, so give me some of the storylines. What happens on Schitt's Creek?
Well, to that point, my character ends up getting involved with the girl that works behind the front desk of the motel that we now live at, which complicates things. And then, you know, in the second season, we explore men as well. You know, Catherine O'Hara's character came from soap operas. So there's ultimately just a big disconnect between where they've come from and where they're, you know, the reality of their new lives. So, you know, watching Catherine, who is, you know, so incredible in this show, playing this woman who is so deeply disconnected from the way that, like, you know, real people live their lives. It's been fun to watch. It's been fun to play. And
are they Canadian writers?
All Canadian. It's a completely Canadian production.
Are Canadians hipper? I mean, this show could not be on. I can't picture pitching this.
It was network had some troubles with it. It was, you know, I think Canada, there's a little bit more freedom and leniency to play around. It sort of has that British, you know, Commonwealth sort of, we can get away with some things that aren't, you know, often accepted here on sort of mainstream television. I don't know, we're just up there fighting. So it's, you know, we got some fighter in us.
Where do you shoot?
Shoot in Toronto, in some studios up in Toronto, and then on location all around in the sort of small towns in and around Toronto.
How is it doing?
It's doing great. It's been amazing, because Canadians are an incredibly critical group of people. I say that with love. So to have the show embraced up there in such a great way, and then to, you know, to see it, people watching it, you know, down here. You shoot something up in Toronto and you never really think that it's going to do something. Because when you're doing it, when you're shooting it in a small town in Toronto, you think about what's happening in the moment. You think about, you know, getting through your day, and then you package the show and you finish the show. But the idea of then putting it out into the world is something that almost comes as an afterthought. So this is all just a trip for all of us.
Most people are accustomed to rags to riches stories.
Yeah.
This is riches to rags, right?
Yeah.
Probably people dig a lot of that. Let's see a wealthy couple come down.
I think there's a lot of, you know, people have been responding to it quite positively. I think because, and part of the reason where, you know, the seedling of the idea came from just this awareness that we have now of how very wealthy people live. It's out there on reality television, and playing with that sort of cultural awareness, I think, was what really sort of excited
Have you been
me.
acting all your young life?
I started out in doing some theater stuff in school, and then quickly went into hosting television for MTV, and I was a host on MTV for 8 years. And then this was my first thing sort of out of it.
I gather you're enjoying it.
I'm having a blast.
Coming up, I'll ask Dan Levy what's it like to work with his family and alongside comedic veterans like Catherine O'Hara and Chris Elliott, who's also pretty wild. Don't click away. We're back with Dan Levy. He's one of the stars of Schitt's Creek. Never thought I'd ever say that.
I never thought you'd ever say that.
I never have said it in my life on television, but that's the title of the show, and I am a professional. And I've been up Schitt's Creek a few times. Anyway, you co-created the show with your father. What is it like being the son of Eugene Levy, who is probably a little wacko?
He's pretty tame off camera, I would say.
Really?
Yeah, it's been, I mean, I think my dad has done an amazing thing in that he has chosen to raise my family in Canada. And he went off and did his work, and we were always very separate from the show business element of what his life was. And as a result, we've seen a very different person than I think what audiences have seen in the movies. He's still incredibly funny.
Oh, he is funny.
Yeah, it was hard to grow up, you know, with a dad who is funny, because anytime you want to fight with them, he'd put on some character or a voice or something, and now you're fighting the laughter, which is not what you want when you're a teenager and you're mad at your dad. So
he's always cast in offbeat roles.
Yeah. And it was...
He steals everything he's in.
I would agree. I think part of that comes from just the way that he approaches his work, which is always to make sure that everything you do, everything he does, has like a very strong heartbeat to it. And that's why I came to him with this idea, because I felt like the riches to rags premise could be done on sort of in a sitcom sense. But I felt like I'd never seen it explored through sort of the prism of his lens a little bit, and what he could do for it.
What's it like for you working with people like Chris and Catherine and your dad, who are very funny? Do you crack up a lot?
Yeah, listen, for me to be doing this show with them, particularly in the first season when we first started, was one of the most surreal experiences of my entire life. Because ultimately what you're getting is like a master class in comedy that you would not ever get anywhere else. And to sit down and see these people who I've admired, not just personally, but also, the work that they've done, it's, and suddenly she's, Catherine O'Hara's playing my mother. It's like an incredibly surreal experience.
You are also on this show a producer, right? Mm-hmm. An actor, of course, an actor, and a writer. Mm-hmm. How many writers on this show?
We have 7, I believe, on the show right now, all Canadian. And we just have a blast. I mean, it's interesting because you sit down with these writers and all you hope for when you sit down in a room is that something comes, that something happens. And I think particularly in television, when you're telling a story, it becomes quite clear early on if the premise has legs, and that comes out in the content and whether you're able to continue to produce that content. So for us to be sitting down in our 2nd season and now we're back writing our 3rd, it's pretty incredible.
You have your own production company, right?
Yeah.
Are you doing other things?
We are. We're developing a few other projects right now, very early stages, but it's all been very, very great. It's been a great couple of years.
Who came up with the idea to have a pansexual character?
I did.
What do his parents on the show think of that?
They're completely open to it, and that to us was the most important choice that we could have made as a narrative. I feel like we didn't want lessons to be learned. This was a family that was very accepting.
This is modern to the core.
Who this kid is, and it's been amazing to see the feedback from that. And you you don't think about it at the time because I live in a pretty progressive, world here, but there are families that people who had come up to me on the street and said the way that the parents on the show have so accepted their son, no questions asked, informed their family on how to go about handling, a child who is, in that case was gay.
Do you have guest stars?
We do.
Like?
Robin Duke makes appearance on the 2nd season, which is great to, have the Second City family represented in the show, and then a smattering of really strong Canadian actors.
Is there a dream guest star you'd like on the show? Had your pick.
I got a really lovely letter from Zachary Quinto, who had watched the 1st season and really, really liked it, and I'm trying to get him involved.
They have to be Canadian?
They don't have to be Canadian.
Because I would think Will Ferrell might fit somewhere.
Uh-huh.
And he would love it.
Listen, if Will Ferrell wants to do the show, I don't think anyone's going to
What
turn
can we
that down.
expect the rest of this season?
I think the 2nd season, you're dealing with a family that is slowly picking up the pieces of who they are, and I think realizing that they were broken. And the 2nd season has a really strong emotional thread running through it, and I think it explores a family that is realizing that they need each other in ways that they never knew before.
But it always stays funny, right?
It does stay funny, always.
Thank you, man.
Great
meeting you.
For the chat.
Rosie Rivera joins us after the break to discuss her sister Jenni and her new memoir. Stay with us. Welcome to Larry King Now. Our special guest, Rosie Rivera, author, host, entrepreneur, inspirational speaker, and evangelist. Rosie rose to fame on the reality show I Love Jenni about her sister, megastar musician Jenni Rivera. Jenni died in a tragic plane crash in 2012. And now Rosie opens up about losing her sister and the sexual abuse she suffered in her new memoir, My Broken Pieces, Mending the Wounds from Sexual Abuse Through Faith, Family, and Love. Why'd you write this?
I want to help people. It's 1 in 4 women that are sexually abused, well, 1 in 4 children, and I want to change that statistic.
Isn't it tough to come forward about something like that?
It took me 18 years to even speak about it, and then another 9 years to think of writing a book. So it's embarrassing. There are some shame to it, but once you're free of it, I could speak about it all day.
But it wasn't your fault.
Right, but you don't believe that until there's someone that can tell you it's not your fault.
You had guilt?
For a long time.
How old were you?
I was 8 years old.
8?
8.
What happened?
He told me we were going to play a love game. Him and my sister.
Who?
My sister's first husband. They got in an argument. She wanted to avoid it going into domestic violence, which usually happened. She went to the store and left me with him and his child. There was no reason not to trust him.
How did you handle something like that?
All my childhood was robbed at that moment. Not only physically, but I mean, you go into stress. I don't know what having a peaceful childhood is like. And I thought, if I'm just quiet about it, she'll be safe, because he threatened to kill her.
So you never said anything?
No, not until I was 16.
Were they still married when you said it?
No, they were finally divorced, but he was trying to win 100% custody. And I thought, I have to keep the kids safe, so I should speak up.
What happened to him?
He was fugitive for 9 years. Later on, we found out that the detective on the case passed away. But my sister decided to announce it on her platform. She had become very famous. And we found out through a fan that he was living 2 exits away from her on the freeway.
Where is he now?
He's in jail, 31 years without possibility of parole.
How did your sister take it?
My sister was in a lot of pain emotionally. There were nights that she was in her couch holding a knife thinking he was going to come get her and kill her, or she would probably kill him, to be honest. She never showed that to us, though. I didn't learn about that until her book, Unbreakable.
Did it happen repeatedly or only once?
Repeatedly, from 8 till 11.
Why didn't you tell someone?
I was very scared. I really think he could kill my sister. I would see him hit her. And there was the violence and just the fear. I mean, you're 8 years old and you think he can kill her, and he probably will. Later on, it becomes about people won't believe me. Is it my fault? And then just, I want to keep it a secret. No one has to know. It's gone. But when I realized how often it happens and how pedophiles get worse and worse, I thought I have to speak up.
And you didn't tell your parents?
Not until I was 16, no.
Did you go through depression?
Yes, for many, many years. Sometimes you're depressed and don't even know you're depressed, especially when you're a child. But in my teen years, it was pretty bad.
Did you, when it would happen, did you have hatred? What went through you?
I hated him and all men. I mean, when you're going through it alone and no one can explain it to you, that not all men are like this, I thought even my father and my brothers can do this to me. So I stepped away from the whole men species. And then I hated myself, because you feel fooled. Sometimes this love game trick, or do you want candy, or do you want to drive a car, and you fall into it, really makes you feel like you're the dumbest person alive. So I hated myself for a very long time.
We'll talk about your sister's death in a while. Do you work with other victims of sexual abuse?
Yes, I have an organization called Sister Somalia, and it's pretty, it's all on social media. They email us. I have a group of women all over the world that have been through this, that have overcome this, domestic violence advocates, and we give them advice on where they can find help in their area, how to make a police report, how to tell their family, walking through the first steps.
Have you overcome him?
Yes, I have. Once we saw him when they arrested him, I felt no hate, nothing but compassion.
Really?
I took a long time to finally forgive him, but when you finally forgive someone, you know it when you see them and you don't feel anything in your chest or in your stomach. I really, really felt sorry for him.
Have you, in a sense, forgiven him?
Yes, I have.
You have. That's through your faith, right?
Right, that's the only way I could have peace.
Was it cathartic to write the book?
In a way, yes. It's always good to speak about it. And I mean, I think it's throwing up. It's what they tell you in your therapy, throw it all up. But I was already healed. I mean, I had already been speaking about it for 9 years. What was good is seeing if I've been through this in my 30 years in life, whatever comes ahead, I'll go through it. I fear nothing now.
What do people misunderstand about sexual abuse?
They think that it's easy to get over, that time heals the wounds, that it happened so long ago it doesn't really matter. But time doesn't heal it. Time can even make it worse. And people need to really speak up about it. And it's difficult to speak up about it because it's usually a family member. At least in my culture, it's an uncle, it's a brother, it's a grandpa. And everyone wants to just silence the victim. But they need to understand that the victim doesn't need justice by death, sometimes not even by prison time. They just need to be heard out. That would make a world of a difference.
You write about tragedy. There's nothing more tragic than losing a sibling in a plane crash. What happened that day?
It's the worst day of my life. I mean, he threatened to kill my sister. So fast forward to when I'm 31 years old, I was still very much afraid of living without her. And she texted me every day, no matter how famous she got. She was my best friend. I received that call and they said the plane was missing. And the word
Where
missing.
were they going, and what was the...
She was going from a concert in Monterrey, Mexico to...
singer.
She's a singer. To Toluca, where she was gonna do The Voice in Spanish. She was a judge, and it's a huge show in Mexico as it is here. And she never made it.
She was Jenni Rivera?
Yes.
Very famous singer, right?
She is. About 22 million albums sold.
How many people on the plane?
7.
Have they had a final conclusion?
Not yet. We're getting very close, though.
Why does it take so long?
Because the plane hit the ground so hard that it can't be reconstructed. For those investigations, they try and reconstruct the plane as much as they can. And even though there were no flames or anything of the sort, it just fell so fast, so hard that we can't find all the pieces today.
What kind of plane was it?
A Learjet?
Where did it crash?
Iturbide, Monterrey, Mexico.
In Mexico.
In Mexico.
Our guest is Rosie Rivera. The book is My Broken Pieces. We'll talk about religion and politics after the break. We'll also play a little If You Only Knew. We'll be right back. We're back with Rosie Rivera. The book is My Broken Pieces. You became famous in part because of your sister's death, right?
Right. I didn't want to.
What happened?
She made me her trustee, the trustee of her estate. She had told me in July of 2012, but I thought, you'd be an old lady. When you pass, what am I going to do? And I would do anything for her.
So what did you do to become famous?
Nothing. I just was her trustee. Everyone turned to look at me to see how I was going to handle her money, which I don't know if it's in every culture, but trustees are really watched and scrutinized.
You handle the money.
I do, which is the toughest job in the whole world.
Did you do television yourself?
With her, I did I Love Jenni and other reality shows after her passing. I just wanted people to get to know me a little bit, and then I found out it doesn't matter if they know you. If they love you, they love you. If they hate you, they hate you.
You're happily married?
Yes, I am.
Have children?
2.
So you got through this pretty good.
I'm doing well, yes, and that's why I write the book. I don't think I could write this book and say that there's hope if I wasn't doing well in this area.
Now tell me about the evangelist part. How did this come into your life?
Well, God saved me when I was 25, literally off the street. My family was famous, and they were millionaires and doing great in the industry, but I felt like trash. And it's really the way you perceive yourself. So I tried to commit suicide in LA, just screaming at people, drunk, half naked, trying to have someone kill me. And no one would even look at me. And I just laid in the middle of the street hoping someone would run me over, and nothing happened. I woke up a couple hours later with a sense of God telling me, go home. You know, that's enough. And I found out that my home, where a woman like me would fit, because with sexual abuse, you feel like you don't fit in anywhere. There's no place for you to call home, no matter how great your family is doing. And so I decided to speak up about it. He healed me, he loved me, he changed me, everything that I tried in 25 years in life, he did in moments' time. So I
had
started
an epiphany.
Yes.
How did what happened? Did you hear a voice? Did you?
Well, I heard it internally. I can't even tell you it was audibly, but he just said, you know, that's enough, go home. I decided to go to church the next day after
What
trying
church?
everything. It's called First Love. My brother is the pastor, and he had been inviting me forever. And, you know, it's a Foursquare church.
Is that Presbyterian? Is that?
It's more towards Baptist. And
You preach?
I do. I started preaching 3 months after I was saved. I just felt like I had this treasure and I had to share it.
Pew Research in last year, American adults are becoming less and less religious. Mm-hmm. That bother you?
Actually, no. I think religion kind of ruins things. It's a lot of rules. If we could say we're having more of a relationship with God, that would make me feel better. I don't consider myself religious at all.
Do you go to church?
I do.
Your brother's church?
Yes.
But when you say you don't consider yourself religious, separate that for me. What do you mean?
Because to me, religiosity is man-made rules. I mean, is having different denominations or different... it's all about the man that created this church or that church, or whether you're Catholic or Christian. But for me, it's not all about that. What's in the Bible is having a relationship with Christ, is just believing that he died on that cross, not what I wear or how many times I go to church. It's me and God and I with the guidance of other people, which is community.
Are you politically involved?
Yes.
Who are you supporting?
Gosh, I'm such a mess. Honestly, this time, I really don't know.
Your parents were undocumented immigrants, right?
Yes.
You're not a supporter of Mr. Trump, I would imagine.
I'm not. Not in the least.
What about the possibility of having a woman president?
That would seem amazing, and I love Hillary, and I've loved her since the Clinton administration, but I think she's been a little wishy-washy on some, well, from what I've heard. I can't even tell you that I've really investigated it, but first she was, I think, pro-life, and now is pro-choice, and I'm not sure if I can go with someone that is wishy-washy. Not necessarily what she believes, I just need her to be firm in what she believes.
What is the company you run?
Jenni Rivera Enterprises, that's my sister's empire.
What do they do?
She has everything. We're right now planning a movie, a biopic about her life. We're planning a telenovela. She has her music royalties, which we have to handle. She has perfumes and jeans and clothes.
You talk like she's alive.
I believe that she is in heaven. I think she's living the life and just waiting to get there with her.
You like running a business?
I hated it at first, especially with my family, but now I enjoy it very much.
How do you want your sister to be remembered?
As a giving person. She said it is better to give than to receive, and she lived that to the T, and I want people to know that.
She had children?
5.
You take care of them?
I'm more the aunt that loves them. That's what I've always been. And I spoke to psychologists, and they said you can't come in here and try and be a dictator all of a sudden. So I'm the aunt that loves them very much and works her butt off for them.
We play a little game of If You Only Knew, okay?
Okay.
Who was your childhood celebrity crush?
Uncle Jesse from Full House. I think I still do.
Guilty pleasure?
Oh my gosh. Too much coffee.
I love coffee. What superpower would you like to have?
Reading people's minds.
What keeps you up at night?
My sister's money.
There was a lot of it, huh?
Yes.
Do you have a secret talent?
Yes, I can lick my elbow.
You can what?
I can lick my elbow. I think it's a talent.
Show me.
Okay. Okay. Very few people can do that.
I have never seen anyone do it. How did you first discover this?
I don't even know.
You did it as a child?
No, as an adult, actually. Someone said, lick your weenus, and this happens to be the weenus.
What do Americans get wrong about Mexico?
We're not intelligent.
I love Mexicans. I love Mexico. Tell me something people don't know about you.
I'm very shy.
I wouldn't have guessed it. Thank you, Rosie.
Thank you so much, Larry. It was great to
Rosie Rivera, the book is My Broken Pieces, Mending the Wounds from Sexual Abuse Through Faith, Family, and Love. It's available now. And as always, you can find me on Twitter at King's Things, and we'll see you next time.